Good morning and welcome back to the Recycled Cottage and Garden in an Apartment. I know it's kind of a long title, but I didn't want people. I used to be just Recycled Cottage and Garden. I'd kind of like to just go back to that, but I don't really have a garden anymore. I am going to be, I have an aloe plant. I have one leaf on a geranium that's kind of hanging in there. I'm going to try some herbs this spring since I now have a nice west facing window in the living room and I could put some plants on the windowsills. Um, Today is going to be a little different. It's not about canning. This one is going to be kind of a crafting video, and if you've looked at the videos on my channel, there's a lot of crafting type stuff. One of the things that I trying to adjust this. It's a cold morning. We've got an inch of snow on the ground. All my bones are hurting right now, and I haven't even really combed my hair this morning. So you're getting raw footage. Not that it isn't always, but anyway, I have my giant mug of hot chocolate this morning because it just seemed like a hot chocolate morning. What I'm going to show you today is a small quilting project that I'm working on for a friend. And I guess let me just kind of get right into it. Let me show you. I'm making a pillow out of two extra quilt squares I did not use on a small quilt, lap type quilt that I made for my mother last year. And my friend loves cardinals, and these are cardinals. So let me get a hold of this silly thing. It wants to stay over there. Come here. There we go. Let me see if I can get this out far enough that I can show you this so you can see what I'm working with here. I found not really a pattern. This wide stuff on the edges so I have enough room to make a pillow. I found not quite a pattern, but an image of this quilt block on Pinterest last year of this cardinal. And my mom had been wanting a Christmas quilt, and most of them that I saw were just kind of a bit yutsy, kind of boring. It was either Christmas tree shapes or present shapes or Christmas ball shapes. They just didn't have a zing to them in my mind. I mean, they were pretty, but I was looking for something different. And I saw this one with this lovely cardinal. My mother loves birds, especially cardinals, and so do I. And my friend that these are for loves cardinals. So I went through her stash of fabrics and pulled out the red stuff, even if it wasn't Christmassy. A lot of the fabric was Christmassy. I pulled out the greens, and I found this fabric in the background, which is a white with little gray flower print on it. And I felt like that kind of looked like snow falling. Because, if you look out the window, yeah, you see white flakes, but you got to have a contrast with something. So, I mean, this would be pretty with a white on white pattern, something like that. And I used various green fabrics for the holly leaves and the various red fabrics for the bird itself. It's a very simple design. What I did is I had to look at the photograph and I just taped graph paper together and decided how big did I want my squares. These are about, I think they're like 10 inches square. So I figured that part out first. And then I saved the picture that I found on Pinterest and saved it to the laptop here, and then I could blow it up and look at it more closely to make my own pattern, because it's all squares and triangles. That's all it is. The only thing I did different, because the ones I saw looked totally pieced, his beak is actually a little applique. Instead of doing, little tiny triangles, and I don't like working with triangles. I did a lot of them on this one. Um, it's just appliqued. And Mom had some fabric that had the golden colored Christmas bells on it. So I took my little uh, pattern piece for the beak and just laid it across where it got mostly the goldish color of the bells for his beak. On Mom's, I used little tiny black round beads. Well, they weren't real tiny, but they were, small enough they looked right. To put, I just sewed them on for his eyes. This isn't, her quilt wasn't one that she was going to like actually use. I actually fixed it so she could hang it on the wall if she wanted to. But she normally just lays it on the back of their love seat, which only gets used when company comes. So these were some extras. And the other one is in my little thing here, my embroidery hoop. And this is the fabric that's kind of winter berries and what have you on this one. Little bit different greenery again. The tying factor to all of these was the white with the little gray flowers for the background. Um, and on Mom's, this dark green I used for sashing. She had well, same size as one of the squares, about 2 inches. Um, and that was just a sashing. I've put extra wide here because I wasn't quite sure. I wanted to have enough room that I could get it into the embroidery hoops to get it quilted, and also to make sure I had plenty of room to make sure the pillow form that I have, everything's going to fit. And these borders will actually be half this width at least. These are way too wide for what this needs. So I've got a little more quilting to do on this one, and it'll be done. Basically, all I need to do is these 3 holly leaves, and then make my decisions on the outlining for the borders. And the borders have the print in the corners. I hope that's not destroying my voice when I put that up there. It's this little red and green, teeny tiny little floral for the borders. I am not a perfect quilter. I am a practical quilter. And so, my friend asked me if I would make her one of those quilts and she'd pay me. And I said, no, I don't make quilts for money. I don't feel like my quilting skills, my sewing skills are fine. I don't feel like my quilting skills are good enough to charge people for it. My stitches lengths vary. Sometimes my lines are not real straight, even if I draw a line on there. And it's just, the amount of time that it takes. It's more a labor of love than it is, a job. I don't want a job. I was finally able to retire. I started getting Social Security early last year. Um, because I can't work anymore. My sciatica and some other things keep me from doing that unless I have a desk job. And I was, not for the last 9 years, I've not been able to find that desk job that would make me a living. So, 7 of those years, I lived with my parents. I helped them out in every way that I could, and they allowed me to live with them. And that's the only way I made it through when I lost the desk job that I did have. And life majorly changed for me at that point. I had to, basically, I lost my house. It was a mobile home. I did find a couple with some children that wanted to buy it, but they had no credit history. So it was done as a rent to own. I'm very thankful that they sent me the, because everything was all still in my name, insurance and everything. Um, they sent me payments on time every single month. And then 2 years ago, uh, they sent me an email and said, "We want to go ahead and pay it off." I have no idea, how they were able to do that. Maybe they finally did get a loan somewhere. I'm not sure. Um, but they did. They paid the whole thing off, and it's a process when it's been a rent to own kind of thing. But it wasn't horrible. I was happy for them. I was happy for me. I was now out from under that debt because it was a pretty good sized debt for me. Um, anyway, that's why I didn't have a job for so long. My folks lived in a small town. I would go and apply for jobs that were desk jobs and nothing. I found the same thing when I did come to Colorado. I spent a year and a half looking for work at a desk job. It's another small town, um, but it's small towns are interesting. I like them. The pace is slower. People are friendlier. They're more helpful. And I'm just really, my thought is that really when you're in a small community, most of the people there have lived there all their life or close to it. They know everybody in town. I find that with a lot of my friends here in this building. And we're all retirement age. Um, and, they're my friends. I've never had this many friends. Um, it's kind of fun. And anyway, it's most of them grew up here. They're from here. They know so many people. And they can't go anywhere without stopping to chat to somebody in the middle of the store. Uh, I think that's absolutely wonderful. I don't have those experiences because I've only been here 2 years. Uh, but it is a very nice, very friendly place. However, when it comes to the job market, and COVID has certainly not helped that, when it comes to the job market, um, in small towns, they're very insular. So when they look at the applications that come in or they do their interviews, if they don't recognize who you are, never heard your name before, um, you know, they kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's see who else we got. And if it's someone they know more about that person, how maybe they need the job worse, whatever the reasoning is. But I feel like if you're not related, not friends with, um, haven't known these people for your entire life, they just kind of pass you by. Um, Maybe that's not everywhere. Maybe that's just been these two very small towns that I've lived in, one in Texas and one here in Colorado. Um, they're a lot more open here in Colorado than they are in Texas. That little town had a lot of people my age, um, retirement age. And the younger people were generally leaving to go to a larger city like Abilene or Dallas for work because they could make more money. There weren't the number of jobs that you'll find in a larger city. I used to live outside Houston. But when I lost my job, I couldn't find one quickly enough to, even with unemployment money, to pay my bills every month. I was at the time I was doing okay, but I was a little not really stretched thin, but within a month of losing the last job, um, through no fault of my own, it was just what happened. Um, there were some bad business decisions that were made, and the man that owned the business pretty much lost it. So, I was not the only one without a job. Most other people had other options. They were also younger than me. It was a very small little business. It was a perfect one for me. I got to work in my own little office and do my own thing without a lot of interruptions and, people micromanaging you. I can't stand that. It wasn't a corporate thing because I hate that too, although I've done it. Um, you do what you have to. But I couldn't find that job, or a job that would pay the bills, um, within, a couple of months, because at that point I would have had no money. I not only had my house payment for the trailer, but the lot rent, the utilities, the insurance. That year, I had bought a new car, really the first new car I'd ever bought, and was doing okay with the job that I had. And it wasn't a high paying job, but it was enough. And, when you've got a house payment plus a car payment, and now you're on unemployment, it don't cover. It just doesn't. If I had not had the car payment, I probably could have stayed where I was, but I think that was not the path I was supposed to be on. I think things have played out the way they were supposed to. I was supposed to be there to help my parents. Um, I was supposed to go through some of the stuff I've been through in the last couple of years. What that really was all about, I don't know. I hope I've helped somebody else, the person I used to live with, but I'm not sure. Um, I know things are much better and much better between us now that I have my own apartment, but I had to wait to get that. Anyway, that wasn't what this was supposed to be about. As usual, I've gone off down a little rabbit trail. Anyway, Mike at Dogman Homestead was talking about older people, uh, doing YouTube channels to help supplement their income, and that it's a good option for those of us who are in retirement age. And he's right. And I want to thank Mike at Dogman Homestead for the shout outs he's given me, with my new canning series in particular, because I've gotten a lot of new subscribers and a lot of views on the channel, and I really really appreciate that. I've been doing YouTube off and on for a number of years, but it's kind of a little extra hobby thing. Um, and since I'm retired and I don't have a job to have to deal with, and I'm not in Texas now, so I'm not taking care of my parents. They're doing okay, in their own little apartment. They finally did sell the house, and if I had stayed, they would not have done that. And it's been very good for them to get rid of the house, the headaches of dealing with, any repairs that needed to be done. And I think that's been a good thing. Maybe that's the whole reason that I came to Colorado, so that they felt like they had the freedom to make that decision. I'm very happy for them. They're in a good place. They have good people living next door in the next apartment. Um, my parents are in their 90s, and the people next door are a young couple. She's a nurse and he's an EMT. They have helped my parents a couple of times, um, as far as medical help, getting them to a hospital or something if need be. Um, and that's just fabulous. My folks have made friends with relatives of the people who own the apartment complex, because it is not for seniors, it's for anybody. And they have much less space to have to worry about clean. They don't have to do any maintenance. It's all, you call the office, they send somebody over to take care of whatever it needs. Um, and I'm thrilled for them. And they wouldn't have done that if I had stayed at their house with them. I would have been left at some point in the future. I would have been left there by myself with a house that I needed some work and needed to be sold, so that then I could figure out what I was going to do. It was a double lot. It was way too much work. The neighbor was actually being paid to, mow the yard because Dad can't do it anymore. And he is riding motor, or did have a riding lawnmower. It's just he's 92. Um, so you know, that's just the way it goes. And I think this is the path I was supposed to be on. I've worked a long many years, sometimes at jobs I did not like. Most of them I did, but the last 15 to 20 years I've had jobs I did not care for. Um, Corporate customer service, dealing with, everybody's problems. It can drag you down, and it wasn't so much the job as it was it's an international company, and it was a call center. And I liked helping people, but that corporate atmosphere and all the little games they play just drove me nuts. Um, I was glad to get out of that one and find my last job that I totally enjoyed. But things happen, and that job went away, not enough income. I had to make decisions. So now I get to stay home. I have a lovely it's a small apartment. It's a one bedroom. Um, it's big enough. It's I don't want to have to clean more than this. It's the kitchen, the living room, a bedroom which technically is a craft room, or will be when I get it straightened out, and a bathroom and a couple of closets. That's it. That's enough. I don't need more than that. And you'll wonder why I said a bedroom, which is soon to be a craft room. Because of my bad back, this is a recliner, and I have slept in a recliner for over 25 years. And so it just made sense to me. Okay, this time around, let's put the recliner in the living room and let me have one whole room for crafting. That way, if something's a mess, I can shut the door and ignore it. It's working for me. So I sleep in the living room in this chair. Um, and this morning, because it's cold and snowy out there, it's not snowing right now, but it's on the ground. The streets, it's melted off of the streets, which it does here fairly quickly usually, unless we get a ton of it. So, anyway, I don't know. I wanted to show you this new little project. I would probably, if I had the right kind of camera, I'd probably sit here and put the camera on it and just quilt and chit chat. But I don't have that because I'm still using the Chromebook. Um, this month, when my Social Security comes, I'm going to take a little bit and get a larger storage SD card for the camera. I do have a tripod. I could set it up to do that, but it's got the smallest SD card the amount of stuff it'll hold, and it'll film for about 2.5 minutes, and then it's done. So I need to get a much larger SD card, or if that doesn't work, because those are, I don't know, 30 some dollars last time I checked. That's been a couple of years. Um, if that doesn't work, then I'll need to get a camera of some sort for filming. I'd kind of like to have like a GoPro or something like that, but I don't know that those are in my budget either. So, just something I need to think about for the future. If I want to keep making videos, I need something better than the camera off the Chromebook. I do have a cell phone. It's an Android. I have a hard time figuring out how to use the dang cell phones. I don't like phone calling and texting much anyway. I wouldn't mind it using it as for the camera if it takes decent pictures, at least as good as the Chromebook, which isn't great. But the other one that I had, and this one's new, the other phone that I had, um, the picture quality was absolutely horrible. You can tell I haven't tried this one out. It's still got the plastic over the camera eye. It's like, well, that keeps it clean. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this because we're at 26 minutes because I've been rambling. I do that. Um, so this was my latest project. Um, One thing I will tell you, if you sew, if you quilt, if you embroider, something I've learned over the years, and it's just something I learned on my own. Nobody told me this. My Nana taught me how to cross stitch when I was 4, so I've been sewing since then. I'm 63. That's a long time to be sewing stuff, whether it's by hand, on a machine, doing embroidery, doing quilting. It's a long time. I've learned a lot of weird things on my own, not necessarily from someone else. One of the things that I have learned, when you pull thread off of a spool of thread, this end that you first pull out, you take and cut your thread to the length that you need. Use this first end that you pulled out to thread your needle. The next thing is you use this same end that you pulled off of there first to make your knot in. I don't, it's got to be something with the way that the threads are made and twisted and the way that they're rolled on the spool. And it doesn't seem to matter what type of thread it is, whether it's regular sewing thread or whether it's quilting thread, or in this case, the thicker, and I like this one for quilting. It's a thicker, it's actually like upholstery or crafting thread. It's really, really strong, and it's thicker. You actually see your, if you want to see your quilting, this is nice. For some reason, when I pull it off this way, put this end into, well, you can't hardly see it. I know it's small. But put the first end that comes off through your needle, pull it through, and that's the end that you knot. I don't get the thread knotting up and doing weird things. I I don't know. It's got to be with the twist of the thread and how it's wrapped onto the spools. That's the only thing I can come up with. But that does seem to work. Now, when I pull thread out of a skein of embroidery thread, it's got the 6 strands, and I pull off, over how much I want to work with or how much I need, and I cut that. But I use, because I don't usually use all 6 strands. That's very rare for me. It's usually 2 to 3 strands that I'm using for embroidering of any sort, cross stitch or otherwise. And so what I will usually do is I'll take that first piece that came out, that first end, and I'll do this to it so that it separates the ends of those so I can pull out the thread or threads that I want. Then however many the number is. A lot of times what I'll do with embroidery thread is I'll pull off a good size length and I'll pull out one strand at a time but double it. And I'll do but if I'm not doubling it, then I'll pull out two of them, but I'll knot the end that I first pulled off of the skein. And it seems to work for those as well. I have no idea. Other than it's the twist of the thread that does it. And I get less knotting, where it kind of wants to twist and fold back on itself and knot up. Now, I'm not saying with the way that I handle the needle that I don't get some of that. But what I do is I'll take and I'll hold it up and let the unwind itself every so often. And that keeps it straight. But I get much less knotting up or twisting up if I knot that first piece that comes off, that first end. So there's your tip of the day from a long rambling thing. Okay, we're at 30 minutes. I'm stopping this. I'm going to finish my hot chocolate and maybe sew a little bit. I might watch some more videos. And I'm going to put a link down in the bottom here for Dogman Homestead. If you like to watch an honorable man with a ton of knowledge about a whole lot of different things, who has a sense of humor that's absolutely hysterical sometimes, and loves animals and loves his neighbors and does what he can to help others, then you want to watch Dogman Homestead. He has taken a rundown piece of property that anybody else would have looked at and said, raise it to the ground. And he's redone it. And he's rebuilt it. He's still working on it. But he's got a very nice cabin home now. He's done pretty much almost the entire inside in cedar. It's gorgeous. He's got a lot of skills to share, a lot of knowledge in his head. He's done a lot of different things in his life. He's been a lot and lived in a lot of different places. He's a wealth of knowledge. And so I would highly suggest you go visit his channel and you'll be happy you did. He's a good guy, and he's just got so much knowledge in his head, and he shows you what he does. And I can't say enough nice things about him. He's been very nice to shout out my little channel and sent people over here to see what I'm doing. And I'm very grateful for that. With the new canning series, I think all my new subscribers have come from his suggestions. I don't think they're all just wandering by, or all the views that I've gotten. My gosh, I can't believe how many views, the two videos I've done, I can't believe how many views they've got. So anyway, thank you for coming and stopping by today. Hopefully this hasn't been too boring. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of information that might be helpful for you in the future if you sew. And I don't know. I just don't have a good enough camera to show quilting. It's basically running stitches. Up, down, up, down, up, down. That's all it is. Maybe when I have a little more interesting project, maybe I will figure out how to do that, or, have an SD card that'll actually film something for longer than 2 minutes. My throat's froggy again this morning. So thanks for coming by. And the next video probably will be that canning, basic canning series. And I'm going to be talking about books on canning, books on canning recipes, and so on. And we'll talk about that. I'll show you some things that I like using as far as books, and how you can adapt recipes to work for you for canning. It's really very, very simple, and we'll see where we go with that this next time. Okay, 35 minutes. We're done for today. Thanks for hanging in here with me. We'll see you next time.